Welcome to Four Seas One Family, where we share thoughts and opinions concerning life in Taiwan, the region, and the world. I'm your host, James Thomas, coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan, and I'm so glad to have you traveling along with me on this journey. And welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome. Now, I'll probably hear ghosts talking again right now. It's about, what time is it here? Oh, it's about 2:33 in the morning here in Taiwan, Monday morning a.m., but I couldn't sleep, so I decided to put something together, to put something out there. And I had a little opening statement that I want to read. So this is what I wrote, and it's very brief. Now, the events that took place at the U.S. state capitol tested American democracy and fortitude. The world is now watching America, and even though America has made mistakes, and a lot of mistakes in the past, most free world nations want America to succeed and make a course redirection, I should say. And yes, that's what needs to be done. And I will talk briefly a couple of minutes to feel why I feel this way. When the event, with the massive Trump rally going on and the crowd rushing into the state capitol, when I first heard it, and especially being out here in Asia, I was like, whew, in some ways I was not shocked, but in many ways quite disappointed and angry in many ways, because I got loads of questions from people out here in Taiwan and email from friends in the region asking me, yo, James, what's going on out here? I mean, what's going on in America? I'm out here in Taiwan, and I got messages from friends in not only different parts of Taiwan and Korea and Japan, and some in Hong Kong asking me, what's going on in the States? I mean, how could it get to this level? But, I couldn't tell them straight up. They'll probably hear this, that I was not surprised that this would happen, but that it did happen. And it's really, really troubling. So, today I had coffee with a friend here, a neighbor, in fact, and, they would have this discussion with my neighbor tonight. And we discussed, a wide range of topics from, Taiwan and what's happening in the world, and especially what's happened at the state capitol in the United States. We talked about a lot of things. We focused a little bit on how China was using this as a whole big slap in the face to the U.S., and also pointed out some, to be honest, hypocrisy on how the United States presented the events that happened in the United States as compared to what is going on within China and Hong Kong and stuff like that. And there is some hypocrisy on all sides, and that is something that that I have to admit, because there's a lot of hypocrisy going around, and China actually jumped on this to. My favorite, Global Times paper jumped on this and really ran away as far as their creative writing. And if I was them, I'll do the same thing. And this gave them a really, really big opportunity to try to slam it and shove it to the United States. And it's just the way it is. And another thing that prompted me to do what I'm doing right now is, a comment from, several comments from a fellow YouTuber and Trump supporter about, what happened to this, what was the impetus to the events that happened in the state capitol. And to me, I'd simply call it a rampage in the state capitol. Now, I wouldn't go as far as say, these are terrorists, because there were people at the Trump rally that the majority did not go into the state capitol. You only need a few people to raise hell and cause trouble for everybody else who were trying to stay neutral in this a particular occurrence. Taipei, see? Oh, here you go, Taipei. 5 people died, and including a police officer. And, it's unfortunate that people got emotional. And, Americans are emotional. And we also have, Americans, for the most part, have a very short memory sometimes, and their emotions allowed them to do this. And, the fact is, they should not have it should not have been allowed to even happen. The state Capitol Police and the National Guard was not called out. They were not prepared. And the people who rushed the State Departments, yes, that's illegal, and they need to pay the price. People need to be tracked down. People are being tracked down and are being arrested. You just don't walk into a congressman, office like a particular individual, 60-year-old individual walked into Pelosi's office and put his feet up there and confiscated some of her property, which is a theft, and he needs to go to jail. I mean, he's too old for that, But however, throughout this, it was a way insurrection, at the state capitol. As far as this goes, U.S. democracy, at least on this level, has stayed firm, but there's still a lot of questions that remain to be answered, and you can't deny that. And it does, as an American, you should be ashamed in some cases for even admitting that something like this could happen. Now, I guess it depends on what part of the American population you are from, but if you are a person who believes that it's better to have peace and discuss things like adults, it's like telling a child, you shouldn't do that. You should be able to talk your problems out, because if you are going to be destructive, especially to property, you're just going to be destructive to people, and people will get hurt. But the reason why I'll say the U.S. democracy did stand firm is because Joe Biden was confirmed as the U.S. president elect, regardless of, how you feel about Biden. I have questions about Biden. I don't know if he has the type of personality or backing that will stand strong against large countries like Russia and upcoming nations like China. Will he be able to deal with it? But his confirmation succeeded, and I guess that's the mark of democracy doing what it has to do. And another thing that is kind of like imped me on to talk right now is a video that was released about, I think, our time out here in Taiwan by Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was the governor of California, who's an actor and all that stuff. And he hasn't always been an angel, but he did a little short, maybe 5 or 10 minute video about how he sees what has happened at the state capitol. And he made reference to what happened in 1938 to the Jews, the night of the broken glass. He mentioned that comment. And, this was a reference to how November 10th, 1938 event where the SA paramilitary forces, which is equivalent probably to, I think he said, the Proud Boys. Yeah, the Proud Boys today, how they perpetrated an open, all-out violent rage against Jews, and many were killed. And that happened in 1938. And I think that Schwarzenegger said he was born in 1947 or 1947, I think. And he remembered how his father and the father of his friends, were disturbed by that. And it appeared in their how you doing, Wugwai? What country are you in? Are you in the United States? I don't think you're out here in Asia, because at the time, most people asleep. Yeah, but he mentioned that how his father would come home and terrorize his father, and how his friend's father would be acting just the same, as a way of repressing the events they went through during that time of the night of the broken glass. And it's really, really sucks. And I guess what happened a few days ago at state capitol is, in some sense, something much like the night of the broken glass in 1938. 5 people died. A police officer just succumbed. It's sad, right? And he talked about how the generation of his father, who took part in those violent events, had to learn to live with the guilt of that event, the lies, the killing, the egging on and stuff like that, and the long-term effects that took part of their lives, and that caused this type of intolerance and the sad thing of all this cynicism. And this is what's happening right now with the 50% divide that we now have in the United States. Oh, OK， 你好吧？你觉得我应该用中文讲吗？那个普通话或者台语，我的台语很烂啊！我告诉你，我讲不标准啊。But thank you. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger pointed out that through the difficulties that question democracy, democracy. The thing is, what democracy has is that it is designed to face. It's horrible, huh? Okay. The thing is about the democracy, it is designed to face disturbances, but also correct itself, because it has allowances for amendments to be made, for course corrections to be made. This is the positive thing about especially capitalist democracies, and this is something that's cool about the United States. Now, there's a lot of people in the United States. One of my recent past episodes talked about Blackset and how Black African Americans feel upset about not being able to get the rights that they feel they should have in the United States. And come on, we got to understand that. And you don't have to be an African American to feel this way. But a lot of African Americans say, we want to leave America and stuff like that and go to the lands of our ancestors. Well, that's all fine if you're doing it for the right reasons. Now, because African Americans have been, their DNA is in Africa, but they've been out of Africa for a long time, and you are a foreigner. There are cultural differences, language differences, and thus these 不成文的规定, these occurrences that are African Americans have never learned from Africa, or these behaviors. Black African Americans don't know that. So by them just getting up and leaving America and going to Africa, they will be welcomed because they have access to certain resources that could help the local people. That is true. But you are a foreigner, and that's the way it is. Now, how you doing, Earl? The other thing is that there are, and I'm gonna rant on this a little bit. There are a lot of African Americans who fought for the rights of not only African Americans in the United States, but you just cannot just leave their legacy and run away, because that's just not going to help. Running away from racism, inequalities, injustice, running away from it is not going to solve it. And jumping into another hot frying pan is not going to make things better. But I'll leave that for another time. I just hope I'm able to raise enough of awareness in some minds that they will come here and share their thoughts. And I'm sure some of the things that I'm saying right now will not make me a fan of a lot of people, but this is the way it is. Fix it up sometimes to get things fixed. You just have to break it down sometimes. If you're going to remodel your home, if you're going to remodel a building, you have to tear things out. You have to be able to throw things out and replace it with hopefully upgrades. This is the same thing with a society. You need to upgrade. You need to tear some things down, refit it. And some of the refitting may need special carpentry, tailoring. This is how you build personal development, things about yourself. You need to break down and throw away bad habits, bad thoughts, bad feelings, and recharge yourself and your location, your environment with more encouraging elements that can help you further progress as a person. And when you progress as a person, that helps your relationship with other people. And when that happens, it spreads, like in this case, a positive virus. And that's what we really need. There's a lot of things going on, it's like the danger of the events, of getting out of control is really real. Trump did mislead his followers, and his lies and perpetrated into treachery in a lot of situations. Now, I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with that, but explain why. And if you like, we should discuss it. we should discuss it. Nobody can punch you in the face here on this platform. Now, there are recordings of Trump supporters talking about, they want to break into the state capitol and wanted to look for Mr. Vice President Pence to punish him. To punish him, he's the vice president. He had to be rushed off to a secure location. Rushed in. Please, this is the state capitol. The state capitol has an armory. They have guards there. If you probably saw some pictures, you see some men holding Glocks. And if you look at the Glocks very carefully on the very front, there's white and red stripings. Those weapons come from an armory that's built into the state capitol. And it's really luckily not more than 5 people were killed. Okay? These protesters, 4 of them, 1 police officer, it's luckily not more people were killed. Now, there were situations where police officers were put in danger and they really controlled themselves in this situation, because if this was, I'm sorry, I'm going to make the comparison, BLM member or a group walking in there, I would assume for the most part, there will have been a lot more bloodshed. If there was a protest of Muslim Americans walking down the street, they wouldn't have been able to get within 10 blocks of the state capitol. Interesting. When you see pictures of groups like BLM or something like that, or other groups, when they have a rally near that location, there's guards everywhere. Not guards, but sometimes National Guard. So why in this situation this doesn't happen? This isn't happened. I mean, surely within an hour, the National Guard could have been called on duty just like that, but it didn't happen. Why didn't this occur? We need to ask ourselves that. Who should be held accountable? Because somebody should be. I mean, think about it. If you say certain things like, "Oh, we want the vice president, we're going to get him," if you were to say things like that and you're living in an authoritarian government, you would be killed and jailed, or killed first and jailed. Just the opposite way around. But goodness, isn't that sad? That's just the truth, and we know that's true. We have certain rights in the states that, we should be proud that we have. I'll take comments in a few minutes. Now, I want to know, and we should think, why are some U.S. government appointed officials now jumping ship from the Trump government? You see, why are they jumping ship now? I mean, you hear news now. Pelosi wanted to invoke the 25th Amendment. But the thing is, most people don't understand what the 25th Amendment really is for. It was primarily designed. Now, how many Americans really, besides those who are studying law or something like that, have really read it? Did they read that Article 25? Because it's really for when a president becomes incapacitated, sick, or ill. They should be able to have the right to replace the president. Now, of course, you hear stories talking about 45. Trump has displayed symptoms of mental illness, so that classifies him as being ill. You see, we do have a Constitution in the United States. That's one thing we have to remember. But we also have to remember that the Constitution that we have in the United States was not primarily designed for all people of America, only for those those who had, how would you say, land ownership and had people under servitude. That's the truth. And that's another discussion which I can probably talk about today, because I've done my history. Now, I would say, during the insurrection or the invasion of the U.S. Capitol buildings, Trump supporters called themselves patriots. They call themselves patriots. Now, however, I think they forgot what is the meaning of the word, or what does it mean to be a patriot? The word patriot means to honor the means to make a country successful and safe. Okay, not the allowance to what a president or or persuasive individual, charismatic individual. No, that's not what being a patriot means. There are people who are blind patriots, and there are many blind patriots who have died for not selectively, how would you say, looking at their actions in a more productive way. Or there are some that were not even able to or had no other choice, and that is true. This just turned into a cult of personality. This is not a television show, but this is what it's really like, a cult of personality, and it's really sad. Now, the question, or a question that needs to be raised now, is how do we deal with those who enable Trump to propagate his lies to his supporters? What do we do with those who allow Trump to propagate his lies to his supporters and exacerbate cynicism and hate? Because they and others need to be held accountable. You got 找笑脸, what's her name? Elaine Chen, 找笑脸, and Davos, the education secretary, the transportation secretary, who happens to also be Mitch McConnell's wife. She has a very interesting history too out here in her family and her family relationships with China. But that's once again, that would be another story. But they're jumping ship now. Why? Because they don't want to be involved in having their name tagged on to an individual who got impeached twice, or who exacerbated the craze of enough people to run into a state capitol and do such destructive things. You know, I grew up in the South Bronx, Fort Apache. I grew up in the South Bronx, and you know, I grew up around a lot of death and events that made me feel that the world was against me. Yeah, that's right. And there's other things. I mean, I remember being in front of shootouts and stuff like that. And you know, at that time, I wasn't shocked seeing people getting shot and stuff like that. But as I got older and had the opportunity to travel different parts of the world, a lot of places, and I met people who never interacted with people who look like me or sound like me. And I was lucky enough to be able to learn their language. I mean, you know, I'm close to be able to communicate in 7 languages. Yeah, I'll be in the comments in a second. But I learned that, you know, we all have the same concern. We all have the same concerns. These people have never seen people sounded like me, look like me. I've been in a town in China where they've never seen a black person. And I remember walking up to a kid, and while he was shocked, I mean, people will bring their relatives out to look at me. And I said, you know, everybody else in China looks like me. And I feel guilty today because that kid right now is probably 30-something years old. He probably like saying, when I find that guy, I'm going to kick him in the rear. But I feel kind of guilty for that. But, you know, I've met other people in other parts of the world, and I find that they have the same desires and the same fears as I do, and the same worries about their family and the future of their children. And above all, they all want peace. They all want peace, you know? And this is the thing that we have to put our selfishness and selective amnesias aside. However, it's true that there are some people in some nations that, how would you say, aren't allowed certain freedoms or certain ways of thinking or means of expressing themselves. That is true. And that's something that, you know, we have to even remind ourselves of. It's just that as an American, I'm lucky I'm able to express my opinions. A ghetto baby, yellow boy. 对，我是流氓。那我看不出来，对不对？我是流氓。But it 人不可貌相，对不对？But it's hard to gather sometimes. It's hard to gather. the thing is, we have to ride above this and use fair logic, not departmentalized logic, because that is prejudice. Now, I mentioned already that democracy allows for things to be, or corrupted things to be, torn down, rebuilt. And it isn't always fair when things get rebuilt. That is true. It's almost impossible to be totally fair. Type A number one. Let's have a sip here. Now, the power of capitalistic democracy allows for the reconstruction of governmental structures to take place. Reforms can be made, amendments can be added to prevent these past positive, negative occurrences from happening again. And this is cool. Right? This is the thing. And we have to be proud that we're able to do that in the free nations. All right. Now, that's unlike governments that exist or have systems that are unwilling to be modified or updated because they have a fear of losing control and be prevented from obtaining the special privileges they have. Okay. I mean, let's face it, people are selfish for the most part, and we do need self-regulation. But what happened at the state capitol did not show regulation from the top down. The leader, and Trump is the leader of the United States, that's just a fact, did not take a stand to show that we should act as adults. He's more concerned about his own self-preservation. And then to some levels, we all are concerned about our self-preservation. Some say that Trump may have wanted to encourage his supporters so that he would be able to, how would you say, engage or clamp down on something like martial law. But I think I mentioned to my friend today when we was drinking coffee, he slipped. Now, I really can't back that up with, but this is something that my friend mentioned to me when we was drinking coffee. Some says that he probably had this all calculated and planned so that he would be able to, call some kind of, make a call in to put down martial law so that he can extend the occurrences of the presidential inauguration. Now, I don't know, this is something that just came at the end of our conversation, but, it got me thinking in some cases. But if this is what he was thinking, and I hope not, this is, he tripped. Or somebody behind him tried to encourage him to do it, but he tripped. Now, the most important thing America can do right now is reboot itself and reform. That's the most important thing America can do right now, is to just reboot itself and reform in some way. Freedom of speech is important, and people should be allowed to say what they want as long as it doesn't hurt themselves and others. Right? And you should put that in the front. I agree that people should have access to education, but also should be allowed to say what they want. That's cool, as long as it doesn't hurt themselves, because I don't want to see anybody hurting themselves. But if it starts to hurt others, this is when something has to be put down. For example, if somebody says they want to sell a drug, they can say it. But if they do it, they go on a street corner, start selling drugs, and kids die from it, we have to be stopped. You shouldn't be allowed to do that, right? It's the same thing. A poison does not always have to be a thing. It can be a thought. It can be an ideology. It can be, some cases, even a philosophy that causes people, that encourages people to do things that causes harm to not only themselves, but to others. And this is true. Now, the reason why I brought this up is because there's some mouthing going off that, well, because Trump has been barred from certain media platforms, and the app Parler, which is a app for a social platform that allows almost everything goes, and it's ultra. I think of recently ultra right, and there's a lot of back and forth on there that could be considered quite violent. And a couple of hours ago, Apple actually barred the app from their platform. And people are complaining, this is so terrible. It's becoming like China, barring things. No, like I said, you can talk about wanting to sell drugs, but when you sell drugs on a street corner and it's hurting other people or causing other people to harm themselves, you're wrong. You need to be stopped. Why can't you see the logic in this way? I agree with free speech. I agree with people should be allowed to what they want to say. But if you do things that harm others, please, I don't even want you to harm yourself. But if you do things that harm others, you need to be stopped. In this case, I can agree with this case with having Trump barred from certain social platforms. But this is the problem. If a person or a group is creating directly or indirectly or inciting violence, this is a different thing altogether. Remember, people, however, should be allowed to say what they want to say and even use the social platforms they want to use. But there's something you have to remember. If you allow yourself to remain in the circles that believe only the same things you do, you are closing yourself down from further development. Okay? This allowing yourself to stay in an echo chamber doesn't make you any smarter. We know here on YouTube, the algorithm follows what we like, and it keeps us in some cases in an echo chamber. The algorithm. And if you only stay in these echo chambers, that propagates only the beliefs that you care about, you're not making yourself any better. You're not giving yourself an opportunity to grow. Listen to other opinions, fine. But don't do things to propagate hate. Now, simply the U.S. needs to heal. And after listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger, I became a little bit more positive. Because 2 days ago, I was totally depressed about what I see happening back home. After speaking with a few people out here in Asia and in other nations, right? 4 nations. I found that there are other people from other nations who live in other nations who really want to see America not fall into a hole. They want to see the U.S. because in their mind, the United States still is the symbol of looking for a better life, freedom, and stuff like that. They don't want to see the United States fall into a regretful state. So, I don't know what to say, but this is something that I just wanted to jump on here and talk a little bit about, because most people, especially my foreigners that I know out here in Taiwan, they are more, how would you say? And I see a lot of foreign nationals outside of their home country. They see what's going on. They feel that because they're outside of their home nation, they feel they kind of like made it. Isn't that kind of sad? It is kind of sad. But the thing is, they have to understand, especially if you live out here in Asia, in Taiwan, you need to pay more attention and be willing to say something. I really, really appreciate those few people who are watching. Let me put something up here. Some say white supremacy has mixed in with law enforcement in all forms of government. Well, that's probably not a big secret, right? Yes, there are cases. And remember, no place is perfect, but there are cases like that. Okay, you go ahead? Okay. My opinion is that people tend not to lie. I intentionally speaking untruths, okay, but they promote biased views. I have to believe. I really do believe that most people are good. I personally believe that most people are good. It's just that when they are put in a situation or see an opportunity that they feel that they can hide or lie about without getting caught, it's cool. Yeah, Taipei is awesome. That's right. Taipei is awesome. And what's this? Ghetto kid could be educated too. Education is really interesting thing, you know. Education is a very interesting thing. It's the kind of education you want. If you only get education in that echo chamber, you rather stay in all the time. You're not developing, at least not on a global scale. It's almost like I feel like people of the world should be forced into a situation where they have to interact with people outside of their home nation or culture, and maybe that'll help people to learn a little bit more about each other. Protest violence, jump shots here in Seattle were posted. Huh? Yeah, isn't that unfortunate? But what else can you say? There's a lot of questions that I wish I could answer this morning. Right now it's 3:09 here a.m. Monday, and I figured I do this before I should be in bed though. But my home studio, I can use this what I got here. But I don't know what to say. I just had to get off my chest, and now I'm a little bit more optimistic. But other things are going to happen. I do worry about how the United States will, how would you say, proceed from now. People have to be accountable, and that's the truth. And no place is perfect, but the best we really should try our best to make things the best as we can. Huh? Really? Well, look, let me get to bed here. Earl, thank you for jumping in here. Yellow baby. I kind of like a button there of Dr. Jing En 博士. That's right. Jing En 博士 and Yu Guai. I think that's right. If it was Mandarin, I could probably read it. You agree with Earl, huh? Where is that? There you go. Hey guys, thanks a lot. Please leave a comment below and help me share this, because the things that I talk about on this channel is not, how would you say, too glamorous. And the things I talk about on this channel is made for people to think, and not some people are just not willing to think or able to, or this channel is not flashy enough. I really appreciate your attendance, and I really thanks a lot. Now, let's put something up here before I get out of here. What's this? Do you think that's cool to have Trump supposed to be all suspended per some different voices' opinion and the move against democracy? Yeah, this is what I'm trying to point out. Okay, everyone should have the right to say what they want, as long as it doesn't hurt themselves. If you want to hurt yourself, there's not much most people can do. But if it starts to hurt others, if your action starts to hurt others or put others in danger, especially if it occurs repeatedly, something has to be changed. I made an analogy of someone wants to sell, say they want to sell drugs. They saying it, that's one thing. If they say they want to take drugs, that's another thing too, because we can't follow people around. But if they want to stay on a street corner and sell drugs to children, they need to be stopped. That's an action. Or if someone says things that will cause people to harm themselves repeatedly, and certain people who are not really clear thinkers or don't know the difference between good and bad, if they do it and people are constantly harming themselves, we have to stop this person from speaking. I agree with that. I am not against differences of opinions, and as long as it's held out in mature discussions, not violent discussions. And well, I'll just leave it as that. And maybe a couple hours, maybe 2 days from now, I'll do another talk in, and just pop that back up here. until it came to her doorstep. That's right. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? People talk about things in theory as long as it's not in their neighborhood, it doesn't affect them. When it comes to their doorstep, they think. And I think this is why I'm talking about this today, because I live in a place where I've seen governmental, authoritarian crackdowns. I can see it happening out here in different cultures in Asia, whether it's in Hong Kong, Myanmar, or whatever. I've seen it. And if it's going to be a total photocopy of this event in the United States, North America, that's going to be rough. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching this little thing here. And I'll catch you guys on the next run. Any comments, please leave it below. Please help me share this. Thank you guys very much. 再见.